So this is going to be another movie review. This one's called The Mad Monster, 1942. Giving it 5 out of 5 stars. I love this flick. It's got the great George Zucco, who is poor man's Boris Karloff. As I mentioned in my previous videos, I haven't seen a single George Zucco movie that I have actually rated less than 5 out of 5 stars. All of the George Zucco movies get an automatic 5 out of 5 stars. Period. The Mad Monster is a 1942 U.S. black and white horror film. Yes. You've got George Zucco, you've got PRC, and you've got the director, Sam Newfield. How could you go wrong with this? Produced and distributed by the aforementioned Poverty Row Studio Producers Releasing Corporation, also known as PRC. Unfortunately, it didn't have the Bela Lugosi theme song, but it had some pretty creepy PRC sounding background music. The film stars George Zucco, Glenn Strange, who played Ming the Merciless's robot. And he also played the bartender on Gunsmoke. He also played Frankenstein in 3 of the Universal films during the 1940s. He's 6'5". This movie is going to be a ripoff on The Wolfman from the previous year. And I think I like the Glenn Strange version of The Wolfman. Nothing against Lon Chaney, of course. Then it's got Johnny Downs and Ann Nagel, 2 actors that I've never heard of. They don't look familiar to me. Johnny Downs was in Our Gang. I guess I should put his Johnny Downs. He played Johnny in the Our Gang. He played Johnny. I guess I should put his name in the credits. And Nagel? I don't know who she is, but I'll put Johnny Morey Downs in the description. Johnny. So this is why I couldn't recognize him, because he was a young kid during the Our Gang era. He still looks rather young in this one, 1942. But he doesn't look like a kid anymore. He looks like a young adult. The film's storyline concerns a discredited mad scientist who plans to kill his colleagues one by one using a secret formula that transforms his simple-minded gardener into a murderous wolfman. I'm liking the Mad Monster movie poster. It doesn't have any writing on it other than the Mad Monster. And the actors' names. Johnny Downs and George Zucco and Nagel. It's also got the producer's name on here and the director's name, Sam Newfield. Pretty cool poster. Got red lettering and a little bit of white lettering. It's got the PRC logo on the bottom right. And it's got the Wolfman attacking Ann Nagel. I must have missed that scene. It's also got George Zucco in the right bottom corner next to the PRC logo. He's got his whip out on Glenn Strange. Looks like pre-Wolfman because he doesn't have the funky hair and the hairy beard. On a fog-bound moonlight night, a wolf howls in the swamp. In his nearby laboratory, Dr. Lorenzo Cameron draws blood from a caged wolf. Secured to a table is Dr. Cameron's simple-minded but strong gardener, Petro, who is to be the subject of the doctor's experiment. Cameron injects a serum made from the wolf's blood into the cooperative Pedro, who loses consciousness, grows fur and fangs, and awakens after he has transformed into a wolfman. Cameron turns to an empty table, visualizing his former colleagues sitting there. The four professors dismissed his theory that wolf blood transfusions could be used to give a human being wolf-like traits. He recalls how the scientific community, the press, and the public joined in a resounding chorus of ridicule that finally cost him his position at the university. Addressing the four spectral professors, Cameron declares, right now, we're at war with an enemy that produces a horde that strikes with a ferocious fanaticism. Cameron proposes giving Wolfman traits to soldiers in order to help win the war. When the professors scoff, Cameron says to them that his proposal doesn't really matter. He's going to have his Wolfman kill them one by one. For the time being, however, he administers an antidote that transforms Petro back to normal. Petro remembers nothing. The following night, Cameron injects Petro again and sends him into the swamp. As a wolfman, he enters a nearby home and kills the little girl. Hearing about the child's death, Cameron knows his formulation works. Because of this, he proceeds to eliminate his former colleagues. He begins by setting up elaborate encounters in which Petro, left alone with each scientist, makes his wolfman transformation. The more times this happens, however, the more unpredictable Petro becomes while killing them. Cameron's daughter, Lenora, is romantically involved with Tom Gregory, a newspaper reporter from our gang, investigating the death of the little girl. As the professors are killed, Gregory begins to suspect that Cameron is behind the murders. The principals arrive at the Cameron home as a large thunderstorm begins. A bolt of lightning suddenly strikes, setting Cameron's laboratory on fire. Lenora and Tom encountered an agitated Pedro, now in his wolfman form, but they are able to escape from the spreading fire. And the cast list was adopted from the book Poverty Row Horrors on IMDb. Wikipedia, not IMDb. So the cast list on Wikipedia, it comes from Poverty Row Horrors, which is a book. That must be a cool book to own. The Mad Monster began filming on March 19th, 1942 at Chadwick Studios. Although sources such as Phil Hardy's The Encyclopedia of Horror Movies state the film was shot in 5 days, the Hollywood Reporter production charts and Daily Variety indicate that shooting required 2 weeks. The Mad Monster was released on May 15, 1942. The film was re-released by PRC in 1945 as a double feature with The Devil Bat. So this is why this movie reminded me of The Devil Bat, starring Bela Lugosi, because it's one of those so bad that it's good type movies. Bela Lugosi is in the same category as George Zucco when it comes to 1940s horror. They're so bad that they're good. And by the way, George Zucco and both George Zucco and Bela Lugosi are in the same movie from 1944, a movie that came out 2 years later. Or is it 1 year before? Depends on whether we were talking about the original release date or the re-release. Anyway, Voodoo Man from 1994 has both George Zucco, Bela Lugosi, and John Carradine to boot. Voodoo Man is awesome. I don't care what John Carradine says is his least favorite movie. I love that flick. All right. The film was banned in the UK until the 1950s. According to British film historian Phil Hardy, the film shocked the British censor enough to ban it until 1952, and even then to insist that it should be accompanied by a disclaimer on the matter of blood transfusions. From contemporary reviews, a review in the Hollywood Reporter praised the film, stating that PRC had released a thriller diller that can stand up with the best of such product on the market. The review praised Sam Newfield's directing as suspenseful, as well as praising the settings and photography, and said that Glenn Strange gives a top-grade presence to the bewildered monster. Eddie of Variety declared that the film had a childish, almost naive attempt to inject horror, and that the dialogue and situations were strung over. Eddie found Ann Nagel and George Zucco as satisfactory, while Strange was properly horrible as the Beastman. Like I said, one of those so bad that it's good type movies. I don't want to disparage Lon Chaney, of course, but I do like the Glenn Strange version. It's let's just call it unintentional humor. Wanda Hale of the New York Daily News gave the film a 1.5-star rating, summarizing that the film was about as effective as the blood transfusion within the film. So what she's referring to is eventually the blood transfusion starts to wear off. And subsequently, whenever the moon comes up, Glenn Strange starts transforming into the werewolf halfway through the movie without any blood transfusion. It's just automatic. From retrospective reviews, Joe Dante listed the film in his list of the 50 worst horror films ever in 1962 in Famous Monsters of Filmland magazine. which my stepdad used to collect back in the 50s, remarking that Zucco, Nagel, and Johnny Downs were awful, and so was the plot. William K. Everson, in his book More Classics of the Horror Film, declared the film a disaster. Tom Weaver wrote in his book Poverty Row Horrors that the film featured tired cliches and was one of those uniquely bad films that is difficult to dislike. Amen, brother. It's public domain. I posted links to both the movie and the trailer in the description. Thank God I found a trailer. What an awesome flick. What an awesome actor George Zucco is. It's a very low 3.5 out of 10 on IMDb. 1942, 1 hour, 17 minutes. Mad scientist changes a simple-minded handyman into a werewolf in order to prove his supposedly crazy scientific theories and exact revenge. More like this. Dead Man Walk. I've got to get that. Bride of the Monster. The Monster Maker. I've got to get that. Doomed to Die. I've got to get that. I've already seen The Monster on the big screen, but I have not seen the colorized version on Tubi. Clocking in at 77 minutes, it ranks as the longest B picture made on Poverty Row in the 1940s at approximately 46 minutes and 31 seconds. When Lenora Cameron greets Tom Gregory, a large boom mic shadow falls behind his head. Oh, just like Dark Shadows television show. Quotes Dr. Lorenzo Cameron is quoted as saying, "You realize, of course, that this country is at war, that our armed forces are locked in combat with a savage horde that fight with fanatical fury. Well, that fanatical fury will avail them of nothing when I place my new serum at the disposal of the War Department. Just picture, gentlemen, an army of wolfmen, fearless, raging, every man a snarling animal. My serum will make it impossible to unloose millions of such animal men who are governed by one collective thought, the animal lust to kill without regard to personal safety. Such an army will be invincible, gentlemen." Sorry, I couldn't imitate George Zucco's British accent in that one. This movie was edited into Haunted Hollywood, The Mad Monster from 2016. Here's a different review. Somebody who gives it a somewhat low rating, although not as low as the average, pretty close. Tavam reviews The Mad Monster on IMDb with a review dated June 20th, 2018. The title of the review is "The Mad Monster was not a very exciting horror movie." He says, or she says, "In writing reviews of werewolf movies I found on YouTube for the next several days, here's one on a production made by the lowest of the Poverty Row Studios, PRC. George Zucco is a mad scientist wanting to create wolfmen so that they can aid in the fight during World War II. But he also wants revenge against his former fellow colleagues at his previous institution. His patient is mentally challenged farmhand, played by Glenn Strange, who would later take over the Frankenstein monster role at Universal after Boris Karloff didn't want to do it any longer. Also in tow is Zucco's daughter, Ann Nagel. Oh, okay. Now we know who Ann Nagel is. She's George Zucco's daughter. I'm kidding. She plays the daughter in the movie. Okay, so Ann Nagel was in Man-Made Monster. I'm going to put her name in the description because I want to see Man-Made Monster. No. Never mind. I got it mixed up with the Monster Maker. Scratch what I just said. I will not put Ann Nagel's name in the description. Like in that one, she also, like in Man-Made Monster, she also falls for a reporter here, played by our former R-ganger from the silent era, Johnny Downs. Okay, that's why I don't know Johnny from R-Gang. One notable appearance is that of Mae Busch, formerly a usual Laurel and Hardy antagonist as Susan, who I think was the mother of that little girl whose fate was not good. My verdict, this movie seems to lumber its way through 77 minutes with not much of a music score, too many repetitive lines, and not much action till the end. In fact, part of me felt like sleeping while watching. So on that note, The Mad Monster is worth a look, but no more than that. I wonder what kind of review this person would give to The Devil Bat, starring Bela Lugosi, or Voodoo Man. All right, so here are 3 movies to add to my list: Dead Man Walk, The Monster Maker, and Doom Die. All right. As you can see, I keep scratching my neck because I've got a rash, which happens when I sweat too much during the summer, I guess. And it's not even hot here in San Francisco, but I got all these pimples on my body. More recently, all over my neck. Fortunately, I got the pink lotion, which is kind of a relief aid when I'm sleeping at night, or when I get out of the shower in the morning. I'll just wipe it all over my body. So I've got all these pink spots and bleeding pimples all over. Anyways, the reason why I haven't been doing as many movie reviews is because I had to study for the notary public exam, which I think I passed because they didn't reach out to me to retake the exam the following day. So that was very nice. I finally met the late exorcist on YouTube, Richard M. Hernandez, and I got his business card, and I got a comparison of his exorcism and the priest's exorcisms. So that was pretty exciting. I got to meet the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Richard M. Hernandez, excuse me, who has the dubious distinction of being banned from altar service at Our Lady of Visitation. And he is, speaking of fanatical fury, he was pointing on my arm like this, lecturing me about the divine mercy. I thought I thought the other parishioners were Divine Mercy fanatics, but this guy is just completely obsessed with the Divine Mercy. All right. So the next 3 movies coming up, let's go down the list. King Kong Lives, 1986. Drum, 1976. And Extreme Justice, 1993. Those are the next 3 on my list. I had to delete the nudie cutesy ones because they were no longer available on Tubi. That's the thing with Tubi. I like putting Tubi movies on my list, but then they disappear. So, oh well. I tried. To be or not to be? That is the question. Sorry. I tried to make a funny joke and I failed. Well, that's the end of my review. You got the next 3 on my list. I'm going to look for Dead Man Walk, The Monster Maker, and Doomed to Die. If I can find those, I'll add it to my list. Hope you enjoyed my video. Sorry to have taken so long. But this weekend is... Oh. Adrian says I'm busy and I'll catch up soon. I'm trying to catch up myself. I'm only doing 1 review a week. This movie is awesome. George Zucco, Sam Newfield, PRC. Are you kidding me? And plus, this was not only that, but this was a double bill with The Devil Bat, starring Bela Lugosi. That was one of my first VHS movies, The Devil Bat. I got it at Walmart for like 50 cents back in the 80s. Laters.